Marhaba, good afternoon, His Highness, His Excellency, Dr. Aleem, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here today. It's WWF. We're honored to be included in this prestigious third annual Congress, and happy to lend our voice to the many great speakers we've had today. Who has heard of Emirates Wildlife Society before? Ooh, this is a good crowd. Good, well, thank you, Dr. Aleem. And who's heard of WWF? Okay, good, more. That's usually how, yes. So, as mentioned, I work for Emirates Wildlife Society. We are a environmental conservation nonprofit here in the UAE. We've been here for about 17 years. We work across the country. We're registered with the Ministry of Community Development. And on our board, Sharjah is represented by Her Excellency Dr. Hana from the EPAA. We are quite simply tasked with conserving UAE's natural heritage, which is the foundation of our livelihoods and economy here in the UAE. And at the center of all of that work we do is cross-collaboration between Emirates, with government, with private sector, and other civil society organizations. We work to implement conservation solutions through science, policy, research, and education and awareness. So for those of you familiar with WWF, we work in association with them, and we can access all of their worldwide resources. We work with WWF in over 100 countries, and WWF has been working on conservation for over 50 years. We are very much aligned always with the Sustainable Development Goals. It's inherent to what we do. So if we look at life below water, we have a marine conservation program that is actually quite active here in the Emirate of Sharjah. A few weeks ago, we were out with the EPAA to tag green turtles, and turtles have been a key focus for us because of the importance they play in the environment. We also are here in Sharjah and across the other Emirates in mapping our coastal habitats to understand where are the mangroves, where are the seagrasses and coral reefs. We also work through a terrestrial program. We developed the first mountain national protected area here in the UAE, where we have ongoing research about climate change, and we are still discovering new species in the UAE even today. And of course, climate change is a very important part of our program. This is considered one of the #1 threats to biodiversity. And we can take it very seriously, not only because it affects biodiversity, but because it affects our livelihoods. And finally, through education, we are just about to launch our education program, which will be focusing on working with youth between 5 and 25 to engage them in sustainability and environmental issues and to transform them into change makers. So, as we've heard from Mr. Vinod earlier about climate change, just to give you the formal UN definition about what this means. When we speak of climate change today, we're talking about the change in climate that is directly or indirectly related to human activity. This is above and beyond the natural change in climate that we have seen over history. This is agreed upon scientists around the world, with a 95% confidence that climate change can be attributed to human activity. Also, as Mr. Vinod talked about, our rising global greenhouse gas emissions. So on average across the world, they're increasing between 2 or 3% since about the year 2000. Mr. Vinod also mentioned the importance of that 2-degree limit. Already, we are seeing average temperatures having increased by 0.9 degrees. That 2 degrees is very important because once we hit that mark, we're going to see irreversible changes to our environment, and we will be exposed to some of the most serious threats that climate change will have. And Mr. Vinod had a much better diagram about how since 2000, year on year, we've seen the hottest year on record since records have started to be kept in 1880. Now let's bring this back to the UAE and get a little context. We talked about global emissions, which are about 2 to 3%, and you can see here that we are increasing at about 5% a year here in the UAE, and this is based on Ministry of Energy data. which is normal, you could say, for a rapidly developing country. We see most of this coming from the energy sector, okay? And if we break that down further, we see 33% of the energy sector is contributing to our global emissions. And earlier in the today, we talked about us having a high water consumption. I believe Mr. Bruce in his opening presentation talked about our high water consumption per capita. We're actually the third highest. The good news is that the government is visionary and has taken many actions to begin to address these areas. But there's a lot more opportunities, and we need to see a lot more collaboration across Emirates, with the private sector, with civil society, and academia. I believe the earlier speaker from Bahrain had talked about the importance of working with universities and using them as resources for research.